Hello and welcome back to the Mornville Community Library for Creativity Kits. So last time I talked about how to make your hexagon flowers or grandmother's flower. So hopefully you have those done, and it looks like this with the center one taken out. And then, I'm not sure if you had time to do it yet, but you're going to do a second one. That's why you got 7 extras to make the backing for it. And so I did it, and I also took the middle one out. So, to finish it off now, here's the piece of batting that you got. And actually, I think your batting is a little bit thicker than mine. And what I did is I took this, I put it on, and I traced around it. But I did find when I was working on how to finish it off that the batting was a little bit too big. So what I did is I took a pair of scissors, and first of all I cut it right on the line. Well, not exactly right on the line. And then I put mine on like this. And then I turned it over, and I made sure this one was exactly the same as the other one. So you can see it's pretty well exactly. And I took some bulldog clips, and then I started to sew it. But I left it like this so you guys can actually go, and I don't know if you can see this. I would suggest first cutting it out properly all the way around, and then once you get to the sewing part of it, I actually trimmed it a little bit more so that it looked actually like this. So you can see how the batting is not all the way to the edge. And if I probably will trim this a tiny bit more. But what I did then, once it was all properly done, I started sewing. And all I did is I took my needle and my thread, and I just kind of did a whip stitch like this, and then I went across like this, and then went up again. And try not to poke yourself like I just did. And so it just added a really nice little stitch all the way around. Okay, so when you get to having, like I've gone this way, all the way around, until I got to here. And now, what are you going to do next? Before you close it up, what you have to do is you have to take the papers out. Because if you ever wanted to wash this and you had the papers in it, it would make a huge mess. So what I started doing is, because I do more sewing than that, I actually got my seam ripper, which is a little bit more safer than what I had before. And I actually started pulling out these threads that I have. And then once I had it enough, what I did is I gently went into the back. So that's why I said you have to leave it open a little bit. So you can see how my hand is between the batting and the back. So I'm just going to this one right here, and what I'm doing is I'm lifting a tiny bit the fabric, getting my finger between the fabric and the paper, and then I pushed it a little bit, and the papers come out really easy. So that's the first paper done from that. And actually, I started doing it on this side too, because you actually have 2 sets of papers that you have to take out. you have to take the one from the back of the batting and you have to take the front of the batting. So let's do this one really quickly, because you cannot finish it, your English paper piece until you take all the papers out. So, and a seam ripper is a lot easier to use than a scissors like I was doing. So let's pretend that I did finally have all the papers out. I've sewn all this closed, which I've kind of showed you already. So what you're going to just do is you're going to take a piece of white thread, or if you're a quilter and you have invisible thread, or whatever you would like, what you would do is you would start doing a quilting stitch, and you would start quilting the middle of your English paper pieced hexagon flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going quite far away. So what I'm going to do is I have a knot right here, and so I'm going to pop it through, and now you can't see the knot. And then what I'm going to do is just take the needle, push it all the way through, and it's on this side. And I'm actually going to go right where my stitches are for before. Then I'm going to come back here, pull the needle back out, and I'm going to bring it back right up. So this is actually called quilting. So I'm going to push, can you see the point there? And I'm going to push it all the way back through, and it's right there. And just make sure it's in my seam again. And then I'm going to push it through, and that is my first, if I can get it. Sometimes what you have to do is maybe one stitch will be better. And so now, technically I've quilted this, so if I ever wash it, I'm not going to have this bundle of all bundled out and then I have to stretch it out again. It'll wash a little bit better, because I'm pretty sure if it's a mug rug, it might get a little bit of stuff on it. So there I am doing it again. Bring the needle down a tiny bit, bringing it back up, and then bringing the thread through. And now you can see that it's a little bit quilted. Okay? And that's how you finish off your English paper piece project. And I know that some people actually have taken these, and something, if you are a more competent sewer, what you could actually do is applique this onto another piece of fabric, but not doing both, but just one, putting it on a piece of fabric and making a pillow out of it, and what you could do. And I've actually heard of some people putting a little bit thicker batting on it, and then putting a magnet in the middle, and then sewing it closed and doing the quilting and make it into a pin cushion. And then because you have a magnet in the center, your pins will stay flat on there and not lose them. So hopefully you guys like this, and would love to see what you've done with your English paper piecing when it's done.